Oliver for the episode 3 of Complex Humans. My guest for today is Julie Braden, and she's in Victoria, which is just south of New South Wales, where Sydney is. And it's March 14, Tuesday, 1:14 p.m. here in Sydney and also in Victoria. How are you, Julie?
I'm fine, Oliver. It's good to connect with you.
Awesome. So we're gonna get straight into it. Julie does. Am I right to say that you do like consciousness-based astrology readings or something like that?
Yeah, that's a good term for it because it's not, while it incorporates a bit of the mainstream astrology, the main focus that I have is for self-awareness. So very much consciousness-based. Yeah.
Hmm. So how is it different from, what we read in Cosmo and all those horoscope stuff in magazines?
Well, the mainstream astrology, what you see in the magazines and newspapers, is very generalized, and it's mainly based on sun signs. And many people that read those, um, it's so generalized. Some people can resonate, most people don't. But they have this sense of, oh gosh, I hope that happens for me.
Mhm.
This is an opportunity for Mr. Right or Mrs. Right to come along, relationships, or go for that job because it's a good time. And so here's these people going, oh, okay, I'll do that. And then nothing happens.
Yeah.
That's really, really common. And it's basically a generalized global reading of the forces. It's not at all personalized,
Yeah.
and that's what I do. It's much more personalized,
Yeah.
what I do.
Awesome. It actually nicely ties in with the whole thread running through this podcast is complexity.
Mm,
So the way I understand what you said is like in the horoscopes in the magazines, they're trying to predict stuff, right? They're trying to predict events, and that's simple thinking and complicated thinking, where you,
mm,
based on what you see, you can predict what will happen. Whereas with complex thinking, it's more of looking at the whole thing. You don't predict events because you can't, but you look at all the things happening in the system because they're like initial conditions in a complex system which are ripe for emergence. So you can't predict exactly what will emerge, but you kind of more or less have a feel for what's possible. In the same way that more or less we could have predicted that the internet will happen, but it did not need to happen the way it happened now. It could have been a private internet where no one, where in order to jump in you have to register, but it emerged differently. But to feel that in some future people will start connecting their computers, then that's more of complex thinking. You're not predicting, but you're feeling all the things moving around and seeing these are the possibilities. Does
mm.
that resonate with?
It does resonate. Astrology or forces, planetary
Mm.
forces, with an individual person is very complex because you're taking into account not only the planets as they are, uh, there's the time factor that's there, and the determinants of your own life can dictate what will happen as a result of these forces. And forces are, they're basically an opportunity. Like, so you've got your natal chart, and that is the blueprint. They were the forces that you wear at the time you were born. And
Awesome.
it's very exacting, and that doesn't change. You wear that persona, which is your entire chart, for all of your life. And you may not use all of the forces, but you'll have a dominating set of forces that are very noticeable, and you've got that all through your life. And then you've got what happens, that's a static picture of yourself, and in itself it's very complex. It's very complex. And then you've got the planets that keep moving, and they move and they go up against your natal chart, and that is what creates ripples in your life, though, that ripple effect that, you know, opens windows, opens doors, you then have a choice. And that depends on your circumstances as well. It could be, you know, if you've got free will and you've got a clean set of ideas and ideals, you can make decisions based on those, that the impulse of the flavors of those forces. But, you know, a lot of people are not conscious of what's happening. Determinants is a good word, because how are you being brought up? Are your parents allowing you free reign of the forces that you are? You know, or are they continually saying, stop, don't do that, or no, 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 we don't have enough money, or we can't do this, or, you know, opportunities present themselves. And are you able to have free reign of opportunities? You know, it's a hard one, and that determines how things play out.
Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. Like, yeah,
And
yeah. The term of art in complexity science is like the initial conditions of the planet are the initial conditions, and moving planets, we would call that in complexity studies as the attractors. So yeah.
mhm.
Well, I'm a firm believer that the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So I'll pull up my chart, and maybe you could just say something and see, so that people can have a flavor of what's involved in this kind of astrological reading. Are you cool with that?
Yeah, sure.
I'll
Uh,
put up my chart now, and you can just talk to it.
Well, just, you know, what stands out in Oliver's chart is he's got a cluster of planets in the fifth house. You can see this chart is made up of all these different pieces. So you've got 12 pieces of a pie, right? And in the fifth house, he's got this massive cluster, which includes Pluto, the Sun, Mars, Uranus, and Mercury. And so this is the first thing that just that sticks out. If the person was not into creativity, the fifth house, you know, it's basically about procreation, creativity, which is a form of procreation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you were not interested in creating things, I would be very worried, you know.
Okay.
And if, you know, it's like, no, you're not leading the life that you know, that you've set up here. You know, you're not doing what your astral body is leading you to do. And then you just say, why is that so? And so you know, you'd find out what's going on here, and what was your school life like. You know, was there creativity in your family, etc., etc. The interesting, when you go back a little bit, you can see standing alone there is Saturn. That's in the second house, and that is about your values and how you earn money.
Right.
And that can be a little bit restricting, because there's an amount of I've got to do it right, a bit of integrity, or, you know, a fair bit of integrity is what you value.
So,
And
so I don't want to sell out. Is that what it means, or something like that?
well, yeah, you want to do it right. You want to
Right.
do it right, you know, and that can restrict a flow in a way. That's one way of looking at it, as a restriction. The other way of looking at it is structure.
Mm-hmm.
And that is actually plugged in to, you know, your Sun and Mars, which is part of that cluster. So
Right.
that's actually going to support you in the endeavour for creativity.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so you'd want to look at that if there was a stagnation in, number one, your ability to earn money. If that's a bit restricting? Is it
Right at the
Saturn?
moment it is. So funny enough, you say that.
It
Go on,
could,
go on. Yeah.
yeah, it could be making things just a little bit difficult. So I changed my attitude a little bit about Saturn and say, okay, it's giving me structure, but let's
Right.
not make it stop my creativity, and let's not make it stop my flow of money.
Awesome. Yeah.
See,
Yeah. So it's
that would
like
be the way.
more like a boundary, or a, oh yeah, like a
Yeah,
container. but within the container, things can flow, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Saturn is not the enemy. It gets a lot of bad press, poor old Saturn, but it's the thing that builds structure. You know, it gives you the know-how, gives you a bit of tenacity to get in there and learn what you need to learn before going off and doing something that might be, you know, useless and it doesn't work. Mind you, though, you will learn. Saturn will teach you. You know, you'll
And
fail a
then,
few times, and yeah, you get up
yeah,
again.
and if I remember correctly, he's also the old guy, so he's gonna outlast me, right? I can't
I
really
think,
fight. In the end, I have to submit to structure in a way, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, you want to find some balance here, really do, because you know, the fifth house is about fun. It's the
Yeah,
house of fun and creativity. You know, just think of kids when they really get to it when they're young and they're drawing and, you
yeah,
know, playing marbles, playing in the mud, whatever. Fun is just, you know, it's a huge part of what we're supposed to be doing. You know, creativity. Wow.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
it's
I mean, I yeah, it's quite accurate because I came late into the game. For those people who know me for a long time, like I was doing law for a while, and it was just going against this
mm,
cluster down there, and and hopefully I still have enough time left in this incarnation to manifest that big cluster. What can you say about Jupiter, which is like, is it on its own, right? Is it near the midhaven or
yeah. That's
top, right at the top?
it's interesting the timing of things, Oliver, because I think you've had a jolt up your backside. That's, you know, as a result of Uranus. Now,
Yeah,
before your listeners start joking about Uranus, it happens to be my favourite planetary force.
yeah,
And, you know, you've had your Uranus opposition, or, you know, and it's actually still in play a bit there.
yeah,
And that's a time where change happens. You know, Uranus is it's like voltage that hits you and makes you have a look at whether you are doing what it is that you plan to do. You know, when we were in our 20s, particularly, you know, we said, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to travel, I'm going to get a degree, I'm going to get married, or, you know, you had all these goals.
right,
And when Uranus hits opposite Uranus, it says, well, how are you going with all that?
right,
Have you achieved what you said you wanted to do? And it just makes you look at your life and say, gee, I need to do something here. I need to make changes because I'm not on track.
right.
Okay, so that's one of the things that's going on. And interestingly, Uranus is actually opposite Jupiter globally,
Right,
and it's also opposite your cluster in the fifth house.
right.
And so I can't help thinking that you've got a bit of a firecracker up your rear end there.
In more ways than one, you just don't know the full story. But yeah, yeah. Go on, go
It,
on.
and it's creating that force, you know, so you had to make a change here. If you didn't make a change, you would have felt miserable. You know, it's very restricting when you're going against yourself.
Yeah,
It's a really bad feeling, and actually it can create depression when
yeah,
you're not following what it is that you innately want to do. You know,
yeah,
something inside you says, I want to do this, but society's saying no, 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 or your circumstances are restricting it. It's no. You know, it's hard to deal with, you know. So
yeah.
thankfully, you know, Uranus will come along and say, righto, mate, let's go
Time to
against.
stop this madness. It's time.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Actually, yeah, that's what happened. Like for a long time, I was going against the grain, and it was kind of
Yeah,
a fucking attitude that I'm just gonna prove to society that I can do all this shit. I'll tick all the
yep,
boxes,
yep.
and then I'm gonna walk away. See me do it, and it's like that's Mercury, the Joker kind of. or maybe it's Pluto, the nuclear side of me. You know, I just want to nuke things up a bit.
Yeah, well, have a look too. You've also got your sun in the 5th house. So
Yeah,
you can't shine unless you're going in that direction.
true.
This is what you need to understand about your sun. Your sun, for a lot of your life, can be very weak. And so
But
just focusing on sun signs,
yeah,
not enough.
hmm
It makes astrology quite shallow. You really need to look at the planetary forces and the angles to get a better picture of what's going on. So had you not gone towards this, your creativity, which you have done, miserable Oliver, you
right.
would have been just so
Phew,
horrible to
I'm
be
glad
around.
I dodged that bullet. So I'm gonna start the screen sharing now, and I'm gonna switch it a little bit. So we're close to time, but can I
Mhm.
just ask another question in the sense that, in general, could you see how from your you do have clients who consult you with this, right?
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
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 And can you just share what happens to them when like some people their only experience, as I said, of astrology is just reading it in the paper and just being amused by it and just being smiling when statistically what they read coincides with what's happening, right?
Mm.
But from what I'm gathering from your practice, it's much deeper. If you can just share some breakthroughs that your clients have been able to do because of they've been watching this closely.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because it mirrors my own experience. And what I do with clients is I go through their entire chart with them, their planetary forces, and it looks at the real positive elements in their charts and the difficulties and what they are probably needing to overcome. Issues with the mother, issue with the father. They're the common ones. Maybe a lack of confidence and um, to show people what they have available. Um, many people are just very um, unaware of
Mm-hmm.
their potential. This is human potential. This is what you have. Your chart is your potential. It's your psyche. It's your psychology. It's what you
Mm-hmm.
have available. And when you show people what forces they have available, what they can take advantage of, a lot of them just go, "Whoa, is that me?" You
Oh
know.
yeah.
And if you've had a quite a tunneled life or a sheltered life,
Mm-hmm.
you're not coming out of yourself. This can be a way of saying, wow, have I got that available to me? Can I actually, you know, do that? Um, and then it's a matter of getting to understand what that feels like and helping them to recognize these forces in themselves. And it's often a matter of saying, if you had the opportunity, would you do this? You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, and when you're an adult, of course, you have more opportunities. That you're not as restricted by, say your school life or your home life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you can then start stepping out a little bit. And for some, that's daunting. That's really difficult. Um, but when you see what's there, you go, whoa, is that me? See how
Yeah.
you can't even recognize your own self, um, in your own chart. It's like, well, maybe. And you just need the courage to go forward. So yes, go through their chart. They get to see all their aspects, what that means, what they could do. And it's not pie in the sky stuff either. It's not out of reach because
Mm.
this is their personal astral body.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
And then we can take steps to do projects to start moving forward into themselves, into their astral body. Use it. Use it.
So then you give them
Use it.
practical things to do. So it's not just Oh, that's good to know. And, you actually
Yeah.
got
Well,
it.
often just the knowing is a revelation,
Mhm.
and that can give some people, a great lift, understanding, what I could do if I had the opportunity. Some people have really difficult, heavy charts, and it can explain why things are not easy in their life. And they've got a predisposition to depression can show up in a person's chart. Anxiety can show up in a person's chart, and it's just they're forces that they don't know how to handle. Like Uranus energies are very volatile, very electric, you know,
Mhm.
and for some people that's just it's too much. It's too much,
Mhm.
and because they didn't know how to walk in it, how to use it. So
Yes.
being aware does help. Does help.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point to end this episode.
Mhm.
And if you, oh, I just because there's one. If Kat, if you're listening to this, maybe because she wrote in Facebook, I've been electrocuting all my appliances. Everything's electric around. Maybe Uranus is playing with your chart too. So, so it's good.
Uranus is opposite Jupiter. It's pretty full on at the moment. So yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So to end, just would like to say, if any one of you got curious and interested to know how this might possibly help you, and Julie, you're open enough for people to reach out to you, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you can email her. So I wrote it down. It's info@astroljules.com. So you can send her an email at this email address, info@astraljules jules.com. And then I'm sure she'll just be too happy to answer your questions and if you want to know more. Right, Julie?
Yes. Thank you, Oliver.
All right, let me just end by saying that in ancient Greece, I remember that whenever they go to the oracle, what was written in the oracle is that know thyself. And I think the consciousness-based astrology that Julie mentioned is one of a powerful tool that we could use to know ourselves. All right, thank you, people, for watching, and don't forget to tell your friends and to comment. And if you haven't already, subscribe. See you. Goodbye, Julie.
Bye, Oliver.
Bye.